Imagine being judged, not for who you are inside, but for your natural waves and curls or your hairstyle. In a world where hair speaks volumes before you utter a single word, the battle against hair discrimination is not just about style, it's about identity, heritage, and the right to be yourself. Now imagine getting ready for a special day, styling your hair to express who you are, only to be told, sorry, but your hair didn't get the memo to be less hair-like. A bit ridiculous, right? But for many, this is a daily reality in a world where hair can be a statement of self-expression, who you are. Feel free to share your comments below. I'm very curious about your experiences and thoughts on hair and identity. Welcome to Blackhistory Diary. In this journey, we dive into the untold stories and explore how our past shapes our present. As we discuss the complex world of good and bad hair today, we're not just talking about our hair. We're delving into the stories of identity, resistance, and self-expression. Wait, your hair has the propensity to offend people? Well, if your hair belongs to a certain type and texture, certain hair types can get the owner turned right back from the threshold of a school or a workplace. From Texas 18-year-old high school student George to Florida's 6-year-old Clinton, people's hair has closed many doors of opportunity for them. So, which type of hair qualifies as good and which one bad? Let's find out. As a child, did it hurt when you got your hair braided or styled? Did you run at the first sight of a comb like I did? Does your hair take a fair share of time negotiating with gravity and sometimes not reaching a settlement? This is often labeled as bad hair, the non-conforming, rule-breaking type. It's always hard to accept such kind, isn't it? On the other hand, did your mom have to decide whether to use mousse or gel or hair grease in your hair? The sleek strands that are friends with gravity and grooming codes. If so, then you have what's considered good hair in our community. However, the issue at hand goes far beyond the simplistic labels of good or bad hair. Your hair can get you thrown out of class or reduce your chances at securing a job or place you at the lower level of the social acceptability ladder. With bad hair, many doors of opportunity may be closed to you. It's remarkable how something like texture of your hair can influence your opportunities and others' perception of you. This is happening to over 14% of the US population. Racism is not just about the color of your skin. It's about everything that identifies you as a different race. And that includes your curly strands and long locks. In our world, hair isn't just hair. It's a part of our identity. Sometimes, hair becomes a silent battleground for bias, prejudice, and discrimination. This battle is often invisible to those who don't face it directly, leaving them unaware of the deep-rooted prejudices. Have you ever wondered why certain hair lengths and hairstyles are considered more civil or neat than others? Who made these rules? And why? Let's explore these questions and uncover the hidden racism under the guise of dress codes and social norms. Imagine it's the first day of school. You're excited and a little nervous about the new classes and the new friends. You've picked out your clothes, you've got your hair done, but when you get to school, something shocking happens. The teacher tells you to leave because of your hairstyle. This might sound unbelievable, but it happened to Darryl George, an 18-year-old black student with locks. He was just starting at Barbers Hill High School in Texas, but he faced suspension because of his dreadlocks, which the school said violated dress code. George's dreadlocks were tied up, but the school still objected. Because he didn't cut his hair, he faced multiple suspensions and was eventually sent to an alternative school. This impacted his education and highlighted the ongoing issue of discrimination against black hair. You might think this is just about school rules, but it raised bigger questions. Why do these rules seem to target specific hair types, often worn by black people? If the hair is tied up and neat, why is it a problem? And there's more to it. Other students, like white students on the baseball team with similar hair violations, were not punished. In 2018, a 6-year-old named Clinton Stanley was sent home for having dreadlocks. Imagine how confusing and upsetting this would be for a young child. In 2021, in Michigan, a 7-year-old biracial girl named Journey Hoffmeyer had her hair cut by a school staff member without her parents' permission. Such actions show how deep hair-based discrimination can run. These incidents aren't just about hair. They're about racial discrimination. Across the US, kids are standing up for their right to wear their hair naturally. This is a fight for identity and against racism. Racism is more than just about the skin color. It also targets features like your hair, especially if it's curly or textured. This kind of judgment is similar to the brown paper bag test from the past. If your skin wasn't as light as a paper bag, joining certain groups was off limits. Today, hair faces similar scrutiny. In 2018, a notable incident happened when a black high school wrestler named Johnson had to choose cut his dreadlocks or forfeit the match. Despite wearing a head cover, he was forced to cut his hair in front of everyone. This moment, captured in a viral video, showed the depth of the hair-based discrimination. This discrimination isn't just in school or sports either. In the workplace, people with dreadlocks are often faced with unfair judgment. Their hair becomes a barrier to opportunity. Hair is an important part of identity for many of us. For kids who grow their locks, it's a connection with their culture and history. Being forced to change this aspect of themselves can be deeply distressing. Hair should never be a reason for unequal treatment. By understanding the impact of hair discrimination, we can strive for a more inclusive society. Education and awareness are key to combating these biases. In 2001, FedEx fired 7 employees for having locks. This year, a former police officer in Atlanta faced discrimination due to his locks. He was told he had to cut his locks to keep his job. He initially agreed but resigned after noticing black women in his department were allowed to have locks. It's a misconception that hair-based discrimination primarily affects black men. Black women face similar biases in the workplace, often feeling pressured to straighten their hair to fit in. A 2023 Crown Workplace research study revealed that black women's hair is more likely to be viewed as unprofessional. Over half the black women surveyed felt compelled to wear straight hair in job interviews to improve their chances of success. Additionally, 1/5 of black women aged 25 to 34 reported being sent home from work because of their hair. Consider the profound impact this discrimination has. And it's not just in the workplace. Societal beauty standards also unfairly target the hair of black women. In Dove's study on toxic beauty standards, one woman recounted being told her hair looked like burnt spaghetti, a moment that made her realize the discrimination she faced because of her appearance. Speaking of impact, to see the real impacts of discrimination, you don't need to ask every black person or touch their hair to know about their experience. Just look around at any black community. You'll find plenty of beauty supply stores stocked with wigs, perms, and hair dyes. Why are these items so popular? They're often used to cover up natural hair, to fit into what society deems as good hair. This isn't just about changing hairstyles. It's about conforming to someone else's beauty standards, hiding a crucial part of personal identity. Why do people feel the need to change their natural hair? It's because society's beauty ideals are often based on standards that do not include natural black hair textures. These beauty stores, even those not owned by people from the neighborhood, thrive because they sell products that help conform to these imposed standards. The pressure to conform goes beyond beauty. It extends into daily life, where being accepted often means looking a certain way. The mindset has even infiltrated the corporate world, where appearance can affect job opportunities. Being black can mean facing extra costs, both financially and emotionally, to meet these standards. This pressure can be damaging. It forces individuals to deny their true selves to fit into a preconceived notion of acceptability. This can lead to trauma and confusion about identity from a young age. The effects of such trauma often last into adulthood. Adults who couldn't express themselves or fight back as children may find other ways to cope with these feelings. Unfortunately, there's a stereotype that links black men with dreadlocks to criminal behavior. While this is not true for the vast majority, the experiences of discrimination and frustration can lead some to act out. It's important to recognize that such behaviors are often a response to a lifetime of facing injustice and not being seen for who we truly are. Some might think that hair discrimination isn't a big issue, but imagine being a child, excited for school, feeling good about how you look, only to be told by the teacher that your hair doesn't fit in, that you can't stay and get an education because of how your hair naturally is. This kind of unfair treatment affects not just one person, but it hurts a whole community. It's strange how we can appreciate the culture of others, like their food, but still have a hard time accepting the people themselves. It makes you wonder, has society really progressed as much as we think? In today's world, which seems advanced and civilized, Black people are still fighting for the right to wear their natural hair. A quick internet search will show you the numerous legal battles over this issue. A big help in this fight is the Crown Act. CROWN stands for Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, a law that makes it illegal to discriminate based on hairstyle or texture. However, passing a law is only part of the solution. The real challenge is in changing mindsets and educating people. Why do we need to challenge these outdated ideas? Because hair-based discrimination is deeply rooted in history, and it's time to address it. By understanding the history and impact of this discrimination, we can start to make real changes. Let's explore the past and see how discrimination against dreadlocks and other natural hairstyles has been ingrained in society. Did you know the story of dreadlocks goes back to the 1700s? Back then, the way Black people wore their hair became more than just a hairstyle. It turned into a statement about civil rights. Let's explore this fascinating history of hair locks and their role in the journey towards freedom. In the 1700s, enslaved African women had to cover their heads due to the harsh conditions they worked under. African American slaves wore wigs, sometimes to imitate their enslavers, other times to manage their hair under difficult circumstances. In places like New Orleans, free Creole women expressed their identity by wearing hairstyles that celebrated their natural hair texture. However, this expression of identity didn't sit well with the authorities. They introduced the Tignon laws, forcing these women to cover their hair with a scarf, trying to suppress their freedom and identity. The late 19th century saw a big change, the creation of the hair straightening comb. Madam C.J. Walker, an African-American woman, popularized it and became the first female self-made millionaire. Black hair was often ridiculed, but the community started to embrace their natural beauty. This led to Black is Beautiful movement in the 1960s, with the afro becoming a symbol of racial equality and pride. In 1976, the Jenkins versus Blue Cross Mutual Hospital insurance case marked a turning point. The U.S. Appeals Court ruled that workers had the right to wear afros under the Civil Rights Act. It's amazing to think about how far we've come, yet we're still facing challenges similar to those in the past. We continue to fight for the right to embrace our natural hair and identity. Think about this. Has society really made as much progress as we'd like to believe? Can you imagine a world where everyone looks like you, acts like you, walks like you, and talks just like you? Would that be a world you'd want to live in? I certainly wouldn't. The diversity in our lives, different looks, different ways of being, is what makes life interesting and valuable. It's something to be celebrated, not suppressed or looked down upon. Think about it. Should something as simple as hair be a reason to cause someone trauma or self-doubt? Especially when it's a part of who they really are naturally? Rejecting someone based on their looks, whether it's skin color or hair texture, can deeply hurt them, sometimes needing years to heal. The United States is often seen as a melting pot of cultures, a place where everyone is free to be themselves. But are we really living up to those ideals? We've inherited too many old prejudices. Often those who haven't faced discrimination don't see how deep these issues go. They might not even realize that their hair discrimination is a real problem. Hair-based discrimination might seem like a small issue, but it has huge effects, not just on individuals, but entire communities. When you see discrimination, speak up. Be a supporter for those who are dealing with it. By standing together against such injustices, we help build a world where unity, acceptance, and healing overcome pain and division. When we start to see our differences as strengths, that's when we really start making progress. Only then can we heal the pain and division in our world. And with that, I conclude our discussion on the complex issue of good versus bad hair.